Welcome back to Whole Goals. In today's video, we're going to get into how you can resurrect love in any relationship and basically keep love going forever and ever and ever so you never have to lose friends or get divorced or all these things. If this sounds interesting to you, if you want to learn how to create eternal love, let's get into it. Hey guys, Andrew Love here, and here on this channel in Whole Goals, and what Whole Goals is all about is creating harmony in your mind, heart, body, and spirit so that your life can be symbiotic with your dreams, so that you and your dreams can be one. It sounds fancy? It's not. It's really basic stuff. I try to be practical. I'll try again in this video. But we're talking about love, so don't mind if I get a little bit fancy-pantsy, airy-fairy. So just to paint the picture, I'm sure you've been in relationships in the past. It could be friends, it could be romantic, where it starts off great. You really feel like this person understands me. You get me. You totally get me. And then you give them your attention because when you're telling stories, they listen to you, so you listen to their stories because it's all new and it's really funny and cool. And if you have a good vibe, then you're like, I want to be best friends forever. Or if it's romantic, you're like, I want to be with you forever. You have this feeling. That's the feeling of euphoria that you get through relationships, that can only be had through relationships. Now the thing is, in this modern day, we're not really taught a lot about relationships. So we just kind of act like drug addicts who go around looking for this loving feeling from one person to the next. And when the feeling dries up, when we say, I don't feel like I love you anymore, then we run away because we're like, oh, it's gone. It's like this ephemeral magic dust that we're constantly chasing, and we're like, oh, there's a cloud of it, let's go, right? Exactly like somebody chasing powder, like somebody chasing drugs. So it's the same thing. People are just as addicted to being in love as they are with drugs because of the feeling that they get from it. The problem is that you are completely not in control of those situations. And you hear this all the time. You hear this in stories, you hear this in songs that I fell in love and then I fell out and now my life sucks. That's every song ever, by the way. And so it's really like you're just a victim. You're a victim of this love because this love came to you. I didn't choose to be in love with you. I just fell in love with you. And I just don't have feelings for you, so therefore we should break up. That's how modern relationships work. They didn't used to be like this, by the way. Relationships used to be about commitment. They used to be about sticking through it, thick and thin, even when you're sick, even if you get injured and you lose a leg or you lose an eye, even and you have to wear an eye patch, I still have to love you. Now it's like somebody scrapes their face and you're like, oh, that's not gonna age well. Gotta go find somebody younger, right? So in this day and age, it's harder and harder to maintain the loving feelings because we're so focused on them. And that we also feel simultaneously that we hope that they're still there in the morning, that we'll wake up and still be in love. And if not, this is awkward. We're gonna have to never talk to each other again. And then you're put in a situation where you have to avoid that person for the rest of your life. Why? Because of a feeling that came and left without your conscious capabilities. Now the good thing is, I know this is all it sounds kind of negative the way I'm putting it, but the good news is you can actually recreate those feelings. If you've been in a relationship for a long time and those feelings aren't there, you can create them again. That's the thing. It's like the greatest lie that we've never been told. And it took me a long time to learn this. I've been married now for almost 10 years. I've known my wife for 11 and a half years, something like that. And definitely we've gone through some tough times. We've had 3 kids, but guess what? I know how to recreate loving feelings within me. I can't really make her love me more. I can create an environment where I'm more loving and make it easier for her to love me. I can also be a jerk and make it harder for her to love me. But ultimately, how we feel about other people, that's on us. That's us. Even if somebody hurts you, and this is why I love religions, because most of the great long-lasting religions, the ones that have withstood the test of time, those ones really teach about how to kind of dig in deep and find love for people that worldly standard of love doesn't provide. like in the best case imaginable is Jesus on the cross. When everybody's mocking him, he still finds it in his heart, love in his heart, in order to give to them. And he says, forgive them, you know, this idea. So that's like the highest realm of love. That's like lower level love. The idea that we're still talking about this circumstance means that it's something that is innately desirable for us. We want to live with that kind of love. And the thing is, we can. And we don't have to get super high level, you know, talking. We can do it in a very practical way. So do you want to know how to do it? Just before I get into this, I want to create a metaphor so that you really understand what I'm talking about, because it's not always easy. When you first get a car, you'll notice, if it's a brand new car, you love it, you spent a lot of money on this thing, you will notice that when somebody comes in your car and they have a snack, you are very tense, because you're like, oh my God, this person's gonna stain my car, they're gonna ruin my car. And so if you're passive aggressive, you're like, oh, so you're eating today, you know, you might suggest something, but it's felt in them like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this in their new car. If you're more overt, you're like, oh, can you please not eat in my brand new car? Could you please be very careful, right? So the point is, when you have a new car, you treat it with the utmost respect, because it looks so nice and you want to preserve that niceness. Just like when you get into a relationship. People usually present the self that they wish they were when they are first in a relationship, especially when they're dating, when they're first starting a romantic relationship. They'll be like showing the best side of themselves. They'll be telling all these great stories. But that's like the personality version of you. It's not the character, who you really are during tough times. Now the same thing is true. Let's go back to the car metaphor. When you've had that same car for 5, 6, 7 years, do you still treat it with the same admiration and respect? Do you still clean it so meticulously so that it shines, so that it smells great? Or do you kind of slowly let things seep in, like you let people snack a little bit, you kind of forgot to wash the outside, there's a little bit of garbage piling up in the back seat, you know, it smells a little funky, it looks a little weird, it's got a couple nicks and dents. And what's happening here in this situation, if this is you, and I think most of us can relate, is that you're allowing your viewpoint of the thing, because it's not brand new, to diminish. You're starting to see the thing as not being as valuable, so you don't treat it as well, and it creates this downward trajectory where it's this self-fulfilling prophecy that you don't like it as much, so you don't treat it as well, so it starts to look even worse, so you treat it even worse, and it gets ba. Transition that metaphor to real life. You're first in a relationship, you're saying all the nice things, oh, I love you, you're so great, and you're showing your best side, and you guys only know the good stuff, you don't fart in front of each other, you always have nice breath when you're around each other, and then little by little, you know, this person says something like, oh, I didn't know that's what you thought, that's kind of gross. And this is perfectly exemplified in Seinfeld, where Seinfeld in the show, I'm pretty old, so I don't know if you remember it, every single episode he would date a different girl, basically, and dump her for different reasons, because she wore the same dress too many times, she had man hands, so on and so forth. And this is the worst way to live your life, because you're reducing the complexity of a human being. And we're made up of trillions of cells. Trillions of cells, little things working together to create this ecosystem of ourself that's made up of invisible stuff. It's also made up of matter, all working all working symbiotically, that's a much better word, to produce this result. And there's been hundreds, if not thousands of people that have invested in that person's life so that they could get to this stage, and you're judging them for their hands. That's pathetic, right? So we can see it. In the beginning, we're kind of in love, but then maybe the person says something or they do something that's kind of a turn off, which means it breaks our illusion of them. That's not the real them that we're seeing. We're in love with the idea of them, not the real them. And when the real them presents itself, little by little, we start to get scared because it's not what we thought they were, which is healthy because we didn't know them. We were making a lot of assumptions and they're showing us their real self. okay? I know you can relate with this. We've all been there. So in order to break that cycle, if you're in a relationship right now, especially if you're married, I'm all about helping men to save their marriages. It's the most important relationship because it impacts society so much. The statistics are all clear that human beings are healthier when we're in stable relationships. We're a mess when we're in and out of broken relationships. It's just the way it is. So if you want to preserve the relationships you're in if you're a dude, with your wife, or with your kids, or with your co-workers, or with somebody in your life that you care about, here's the secret. You ready? All this has been preamble. All this has just been a build-up to this really fundamental and basic and kind of simple but not easy to achieve rule of thumb. It's a cosmic rule. It's so true. I will fight to the death for this, to prove this right. What you love becomes beautiful to you. It returns what you love. You invest love into something, it becomes more beautiful to you. And what you criticize, what you critique, what you nitpick becomes uglier and uglier and uglier. Do you see how this works? When you're in love, when you're meeting somebody for the first time, you're feeding them compliments. So they're becoming more beautiful. You're becoming infatuated because you're saying nice things and they're going, oh, and you're forming this chemistry. And so every time you're investing, thinking about that person, you're daydreaming about them, every time you send them a cute text or you interact with them and say nice things, they're looking more beautiful for you. And then, they say that this being in love phase, these pheromones, these chemicals, this chemical addiction that you're experiencing with that person has like a lifespan of under 2 years. Okay, it's usually between a year and 2. That's why couples are madly in love for about a year. Things get a little rocky and then they break up at about 2 years. You'll probably notice this pattern in you or some of your friends. So in that case, this is what I've lived that, okay? I know that. And I was in this unbreakable, self-destructive loop until I learned stuff like what I'm about to teach you, that I learned that when I'm criticizing my wife, I'm making her uglier to me. And I don't see her good attributes because I'm focusing on the negative stuff and I'm growing it, I'm expanding it. So it's eclipsing all of her good stuff. I can't see her good stuff because it's being overshadowed by all the bad stuff that I'm focusing on and feeding with my attention so that it's growing. Now conversely, when I see that and I have negative feelings, the result is negative feelings about somebody, thoughts and feelings. When I notice this and I'm like resentful towards her because she said something to me, all I have to do now is flip it and start investing love in her and start saying, well, no, that's not true because she's like this. I love this about her. She does this. She's great like this. And I start to fall in love with her again. And it's a new love because I've now overcome certain limitations. And so it's new. It's like I'm falling in love with her all over again. It's the most magical thing. And you can do this in any relationship. And I really, if you want to be happy, then you should have no enemies. You should have nobody in your life that you hate. And we should always be able to rekindle all relationships within due time. But it starts by, don't focus on their bad stuff. Everybody's broken. Every single person has junk in them. And the more you focus on that, the more you won't let them be the person who they were born to be. Because you're limiting them to their junk, because that's what you're focusing on. Instead, you flip it around and you start focusing on their good stuff. You start really investing, doubling down, tripling down on all their good attributes and feeding that to them, complimenting them on that, giving them love and support. They will become more beautiful to you. Even if it's just a friend, you'll be able to appreciate that friend on a deeper level because you're growing your love in here in you for them, but it's also growing the love within the relationship, which is reciprocated. And it creates this new dynamic where there's always a newness. The feeling of love is never old. It's just people who chase after it because they feel like it's out of their control. It gets old in relationships because of them. You see that? So if you want to rekindle new love constantly, perpetually in relationships, know this rule of thumb. What you love and invest love in becomes beautiful to you. And what you resent and lament and criticize, critique and nitpick becomes ugly and gross and inconvenient and a sore in your side. Is that right? A thorn in your thumb, it becomes a pain in your butt. That's your kids too. That's everything in your life. That's yourself, your own viewpoint of yourself. So, in everything in life, you invest love in it, it'll become beautiful to you. Thank you for watching. If you like this, please press like and subscribe if you want to hear more of this stuff. Leave comments if you have any suggestions for stuff that you want me to tackle. And also, I'd love to hear if you've ever been through anything like this before, if you've ever resurrected a relationship before. See you in the next video.